Speaking of things that are not real, I saw something that I found very interesting. I guess there's like a dude out there. Remember the guy who like Sex Pest and he was like debating, duking out in the marketplace of ideas? He's some lawyer guy named Pisco or something. And remember when I was talking about that? Apparently his community actually did something that's quite interesting. Instead of behaving like Destiny orbiters normally do, which is just like fucking lie about my positions and then design an entire narrative off of this falsehood that they've created around a position that I do not hold, they actually went back to the original, okay? They actually went back to the original fucking content and assessed it without Destiny filtering it. But what's crazy about it, oh my God, they deleted it? You shouldn't trust DGG with how to interpret Hasan's ideology. Re-education camps as an example. Wait, what the fuck? Why did he delete it? Bro, this has 39 upvotes, dude. It doesn't make any sense why anyone would get so mad at it that they would brigade it to that degree where they would just like make the account, delete the post, and then delete the fucking account itself. Like, what are these guys doing? That's crazy. Like, you will understand why it's so crazy that they deleted it. You shouldn't trust DGG, Destiny's community, with how to interpret Hasan's ideology. Re-education camps is an example. Part 1, re-education and Hasan's ideological beliefs. On yesterday's stream, someone named ZipZip called in and claimed that Hasan wants re-education camps and referred to his conversation with Ethan Klein about them. Hasan does not believe in having re-education camps, and this interpretation that he does is clearly bad faith when you listen to Hasan's fleshed out thoughts. Here are the clips. But I guess you can't even fucking see the clips now because because everything is gone. Ethan, if the will of the people is to go back to do a social democracy, is that something that a socialist country should move towards, or should there be resistance in the government to keep socialism? I think the resistance should be akin to how capitalist governments have resisted historically to any kind of socialist movement. Not to that same degree of violence, but yes, the solution to that would always be education and offering more re-education? Re-education, certainly. Yeah, I know that's a trigger word. Let's put them in camps? No, not like that. I know it's a trigger word because everyone goes, oh, re-education, what do you mean? Well, China does that. Are you talking about resident schools? Are you talking about Xinjiang? China has re-education camps. Yeah, 100%. They do it. They did it in Xinjiang, which is pretty good, right? No, I don't agree with that. Yeah, I don't think it was good. And this is something I've openly criticized as well. That's not good. The massive surveillance apparatus they built in Xinjiang is not good. So what would be a good socialist re-education camp for a capitalist? I don't think it would be camps. It depends on the crime, right? Like, are people committing crimes at the behest of this? Because if there's a socialist state and someone is doing like white terror, let's say, or someone is doing South Korean style purges of communists, which has happened historically in every country that America is aligned with because they are anti-communist, where they launch military dictatorships, whether we like it or not, those things happen. So in a situation like that, I think if there's any terrorism happening, yes, if there's violence, that is obvious, says Ethan. I say, then yes, I do think there should be an enforcement mechanism. And in that enforcement mechanism, I think rehabilitation, which would include re-education as well, which would probably be a lot better than like a prison structure where they have slavery, like in the United States of America. He explicitly rejects the idea. This is the input from the person. He explicitly rejects the idea of the re-education camps. In the way Hasan explains it, he talks about the education of socialism to be the same in how a capitalist country would teach or indoctrinate for capitalism. In the way he talks about re-education, he's talking about a rehabilitative process for people who commit violent crimes or ideologically motivated terrorism. For Hasan's alternative in practice, it already exists. There are several liberal democracies that run compulsory and voluntary de-radicalization programs for violent extremist offenders. Exactly. Which is ironic because, like, I have in the past jokingly said, like, we need re-education camps for these people when describing this process of, like, violent right-wing extremists that are committing acts of terror, right? Like crazy anti-vaxxers and shit like that.
The will of the people is to go back to do more of a social democracy. Is that something that a socialist country should move towards, or should there be resistance in the government to keep socialism?
I think the resistance should be akin to how capitalist governments have resisted historically any kind of socialist movement, not to that same degree of violence, but I think that, yes, the solution to that would always be education and
re-education camps.
So,
offering.
dude, literally, he is immediately, the narrative is just like knee-jerk, pure knee-jerk, and now he's going to justify it for the rest of the clip. So the question was just, how would a socialist state enforce socialism? Yeah, how would it perpetuate socialism? How do you know it wouldn't just turn one generation ago capitalist and it all comes crumbling down? How would that be perpetuated. And someone's like, well, similar to capitalism, you know, education. Re-education? Why don't you give it a moment? Why don't you hear what he's saying first?
More
Re-education?
Spaz.
re-education, certainly, yeah.
What a total spaz.
Somebody give me the clip of that one loser who's like, we would house our comrades in re-education camp. Somebody please give me the clip. Please give me the clip.
No, not like that.
Like not only did he falsely present the argument that I was making, okay, by cutting the context in half, but then he just like follows up, I guess, by adding a total ridiculous thing that I'm not advocating for, presenting an alternative, like a totally separate person, and be like, this is what he believes. No, I started off by talking about the importance of rehabilitation. Why not ignore these morons? The reason why I wanted to cover this specifically is because I noticed that this is happening within Destiny's own orbit. And that's the only reason why I'm covering it. Because like these guys, including this guy who's covering it, including like this community that's covering this, are a lot of people that are in this other, like on the apolitical / liberal side of the internet. And this is the first time that I've seen people on that side be like, wait a minute, these motherfuckers have been lying to us all along about Hasan's positions. It's not a who cares situation. I think it's important to understand this, and it's important to address this, especially because I have ignored it for years and years, and they haven't really gone away. They've literally designed an entire industry, an entire cottage industry about literally pumping out content that revolves around doing exactly what this microcosm is here, where I say something, people immediately interpret it in the most bad faith way possible, and then they just like pump out content surrounding this like bad faith misunderstanding.
I know there's a
Not the camps. Oh, no.
trigger word because everyone goes, oh, re-education. What do you mean? Like immediately people think like, are you
China
talking
does
about?
that.
Are you talking about like resident schools? Are you talking about
China has
Xinjiang? Yeah,
re-education.
100%. They
Yeah.
do. They do it. They did it in Xinjiang,
Which
which I
isn't
think
good,
was,
right?
No, I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it was good. This is something I have openly criticized as well. Like that's not good. The massive surveillance apparatus they built in Xinjiang is not good.
So what would be
Even
good
though
about a socialist re-education camp for capitalists?
it wouldn't necessarily. I don't think it'd be camps. I mean, it depends.
Well, it wouldn't be Oh my god.
Like we already have a pre-existing system of rehabilitation that exists under liberal capitalist democracy. I think we should continue doing that. And also, this is complete fucking alternative reality hypothesis here. We do not live in a socialist country. We do not live in a socialist utopia. We do not live in a global socialist organization of the economy.
I don't hate him. I don't hate Hasan.
What's wrong? You haven't even heard his answer yet. You haven't even heard what he said. Literally talking about rehabilitation for people who have committed crimes, like violent crimes and terrorism, ideological terrorism. What's the problem? That's what Hasan's position is here. We've just gone over that. No one's got any good pushback. Liberal Latino spazzed out at first, but then can't justify anything. So we've got no good pushback. It seems like Hasan is just asking for rehabilitation that includes like education about how to fit into that society with the ideology that is in the government. In much the same way that we try and de-radicalize people from Islamic extremism in many Western countries because that ideology does not fit with the ideology of the government. Why does he believe socialism will win with education, though? It seems very cultish. Well, everyone believes well, hopefully everyone believes their ideology would win with education, right? I believe my ideology would win with education, right? You just assume that most people are rational actors, and if they have access to all the information, then they'll come to the right decision, and you believe that your decision is the right decision. And as such, if everyone had perfect information and you're all going, we would all come to the same decision, right? Hopefully everyone thinks that, unless your ideology relies on you tricking people. Whoops.
All of the mind-numbingly retarded fucking fans that can watch him squirm like this and not think that it's the most. You literally have.
And you see it like the way he's designing this conversation, which is not even like that contentious. It's just, this is back when Ethan and I were obviously cordial with one another. And this is supposed to be like a normal conversation. He's asking questions. There's a little bit of bad faith, but that happens in all back and forth debates. It's fine. But this is like the initial jump off point. And he just says like, I'm squirming. So then his parasocial fans also consider this to be squirming. And then they just like repeat it over and over again. And then ultimately the only thing that people remember from that, if they don't actually watch the the original source material personally, and they only watch it from this like negative lens, that's the only thing they remember.
Have the you've
I
got,
said
like,
most
the
people are
drunken
rational.
gay cool master-
Important caveat, they're not new fans. They're just tired of the obsession from D's community. These people have brain rotted themselves in the gibberish. The two orbiters think you simp for terrorists. Yeah, these guys are not fans of mine. I think they, especially when it comes to foreign policy, I suspect they still have firmly held commitments to like American imperialism and probably think I'm like a dangerous person on that in that regard. I think that it kind of feels like this is the first time I've encountered this person, but it makes me feel like these guys are basically realizing after years and years of this like negative framing, this incredibly negative framing, that maybe the negative framing wasn't correct. And I think part of that is because Destiny took such a strong stance that was pro-Israel doing a genocide, and that the environment shifted in my direction as I knew it inevitably would when people realized the totality of this violence that Israel is pushing in Gaza. And we're here now. So I think a lot of people are basically reconsidering their stances because they were so heavily invested in whatever Sex Pestany was saying and just kind of regurgitating that this is a moment where it's like, well, maybe regurgitating Sex Pestany's stances are not the most appropriate way to go about this. Maybe we should reconsider.
This is the clip. Hold on. This is what they want to do.
Abandoning the diagnosed or untreated mental illness will be substantially lower. It's a sad
Wow,
fact that some
non-compete
violent
video.
or predatory individuals may never be capable of
Yeah, so he then moves on to like someone else's position instead of addressing mine after he's already like thoroughly dismissed it and poisoned the well about a position that I'm not advocating for. But by the time I actually describe myself, he can also say, oh, well, he's now hiding this position that I ascribe to him. I say something and then I add additional qualifiers to it. But before the additional qualifiers come in, he already has like jammed that position. Okay. He's already jammed that position to me where he's like, Hasan wants death camps. Hasan wants re-education camps where people are being tortured for thought crimes, right? I literally am in the process of explaining that that's not what I'm advocating for at all. And it's actually something that we already have in liberal democracy. But by the time he lets the video play and his audience hears my full perspective, he's already decided that my position is actually that I want re-education camps where people are getting killed for thought crimes, and that I'm actually hiding my truth. I'm squirming. I'm hiding what my true perspective is. And then he moves on to something totally ridiculous, like totally separate. Like he does the thing. He slams that position, and then he goes, see, this is what he wants by bringing up a totally separate YouTuber who I assume he's doing the similar thing to as well.
back into society. But rather than abandoning these people, we must do our best to give them the best possible chance at recovery and reform with the hopes of eventually re-entering society. In situations where re-entry does seem possible, care must be taken to monitor and assist these reformed individuals to preempt relapse or deception and to ensure that the patient successfully merges back into wider society. Reactionaries and counter-revolutionaries would be treated in a very similar manner. How we deal with former capitalists, fascists, and other such oppressors will be one of the great tests of anarchist society. Great care must be taken to treat them compassionately.
I'm not even an anarchist. He is, it seems, right? Like, not that it matters. I don't know what his like full worldview is, but like, notice how he's not actually covering my position at this point. He's like completely moved on to someone entirely separate. There's a reason for that. He's doing that because he's just saying this is all the same. These are all bad opinions, and Hasan has these bad opinions. Do not look into his opinions on your own. If the thing that I'm advocating for makes too much sense, then all of a sudden maybe he has to take a strong stance on something really terrible, which is precisely the reason why he has to make it seem as though I'm hiding what my actual opinion is. And one of the things that they always point to is the conversation that I had with the Deprogram boys, where he's like, Hasan hides his real opinions from the broader public. I don't. I actually am pretty straightforward with my perspective. As a matter of fact, perhaps too straightforward with my perspective. The difference, however, is that I change the way I message, even if my moral compass is still the same, depending on the audience. If I'm talking to a bunch of 75-year-olds, I'm not going to use, for example, memes that only 30-year-olds would understand or only 20-year-olds would understand. You straight up said you were a propagandist on Piers Morgan? Yes. And if you listen to the entire conversation with Piers Morgan, you would recognize that my position on that is that propaganda is a neutral term. Okay? I had a show on the Young Turks called Agitative Propaganda. Propaganda is a neutral term. What Piers Morgan is doing is propaganda. What the New York Times is doing is propaganda. Marketing is propaganda. PR is propaganda. Okay? Propaganda doesn't necessarily always have to be something evil and bad and nefarious and wrong. Okay? It doesn't mean that you're lying. As a matter of fact, what I say is I wear my positions on my sleeve. I think everyone has biases, right? Everyone has biases. And I think it's more honest to say what your biases are ahead of time rather than act as though you are actually examining something without any biases whatsoever, because you can't be devoid of bias. That's another great example. Anyway,
Somebody
let's continue.
link this to Ethan. That's what Hasan wants.
I just see it was happening the whole way through Leftovers. The whole way through Leftovers. This guy was desperate to see Ethan freak out on Hasan. Was desperate. And was priming his audience heavily. And then the moment there were cracks showing, they infested his subreddit. They did. They infested Ethan's subreddit. It was blatant. Everyone could see the op. It's just so transparent. I don't know how anyone falls for this shit, man.
I mean, we saw this already. And the reason why we're having this conversation is because of this. It unfolded with this massive apparently massive debate amongst like the liberal content creators that debate everything, including whether or not I would be worse than fucking Adolf Hitler or Donald Trump as the president. Do you know what I mean? I mean, this is a deeply unserious hypothetical to begin with. I'm a Twitch streamer. I think that there is like, I don't command that much influence or attention. But also, my worldview is directly outside of both of the major political parties in a way where I would say Nick Fuentes and his views are not directly outside of either of the major political parties. Nick Fuentes is a lot closer to Donald Trump in his worldview, with one very big exception, which is, hating Jewish people and claiming that Jewish people are controlling American politics. But outside of that, they are fairly aligned on most of the issues, which is precisely the reason why he can, go and have dinner with Donald Trump alongside Kanye West, for example. Whereas my position is unfortunately not very close to the Democratic Party. I wish it was, and I wish the Democrats would actually advocate for more radical solutions, which aren't even radical at all. They're just better overall for the well-being of Americans, right? Free healthcare, free college education. These are not like crazy concepts. These are things that exist in other comparable OECD nations, right? Your snark subreddits are legit the last strongholds for Israel left on Reddit. They're running cover for GHF and the genocide under the guise of shitting on you. It's a much bigger phenomenon than it seems. Yeah, that's what I wanted to get to, basically, which is that there is a nefarious purpose, okay? There is a nefarious purpose associated with this. And the reason why, the broader reason why I wanted to talk about this is because it's something that I've noticed as well. It's something that I've actually tweeted about last night, which is that this is the last stronghold for a lot of these people. I said, in late 2023, the serious thinkers on this website and in the media at large called you a QAnon-level conspiracy theorist, radical, if you suggested that Israel intentionally bombed a hospital. This poster is talking about the Al-Ahli strike that took place. I was one of those people as well that understandably pointed the blame at Israel, considering that Israel had already previously, 2 days prior to the Al-Ahli courtyard explosion, had actually shelled the Al-Ahli hospital. Okay? And that was early. That was early on, right? And that was like the first moment. And then after that moment, the way that the Biden administration handled it, it created the new counter narrative, Hamas-run health ministry. Okay. And basically what I said is there's an entire commentary sphere on YouTube that is poisoning the brains of America's young men under the guise of apolitical commentary, whose only involvement with Israel commentary has been to try and smear the few content creators who have actively spoken out against Israel. So there is that secondary nefarious purpose here that a lot of people, I think, don't fully contend with. Like, they don't fully understand. Okay? It's just like those people. I thought you didn't have Twitter on your phone. No, this is a desktop post late at night. There are a lot of people that have quieted down. There are a lot of people that have quieted down at this point, with the exception of those who are just like overtly pro-Israel still at this point. And it's interesting because those commentary slop tubers, like, they are quietly trying to shift the attention away to like other forms of drama to never have to reckon with how much they defended Israel, how aggressively they defended Israel, and how they kind of still continue to defend Israel, instead of but doing it in this nefarious way. Instead of like directly defending Israel and saying, oh, Israel is actually in the right for doing this, they basically will just say, oh, these content creators that are criticizing Israel, they're bad and they're wrong. I also think Israel is wrong, but all of the other people that are saying Israel is wrong are actually terrorists. Or it's because of Hamas. It's because of Hamas that Israel has to do this, which loops back around to which basically loops back around to like exactly what Benjamin Netanyahu was saying. There's not a lot of difference between someone who says Israel is bad and wrong, but Hamas, and what Benjamin Netanyahu is saying, which is Israel is good because of Hamas. Israel has to do these things because of Hamas. You know? Kyle Click,
one of the things that makes me really
yesterday.
happy is that I felt very lonely for a long time when I started to like relentlessly go after the MAGA comedian podcast bros. You know, your Joe Rogans, of course, and your Andrew Schultz and your Tim Dillons, like all these guys, everybody in that Rogan sphere who sort of hopped on the Trump bandwagon and tried to ride the vibes have started to fall off a little bit. And you get the sense that there's genuinely a lot of criticism of these people now, right? Like, so shout out to these channels. There's a bunch of these channels like Comedy Enforcement and others that do what that channel does. But now even others are getting in on it. So there's this channel here. Shout out to this guy, Kamal, Kahmal. Stumbled across this guy's channel recently. Now, look, him and I don't have perfect agreement on everything. I mean, this guy, he strikes me as like a sort of a center-left kind of guy. You know, he's not a fan of Hasan Piker, which is a shame because I feel like there's a lot of Hasan derangement syndrome out there. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of like hating him, and then when you try to dig into why he's hated, it's like your reason is not that good to hate him.
Yeah, if you're Malcolm X posting and you hate me, then you literally do not understand my worldview. Like, if you are Malcolm X posting as a positive, and then you also have enmity in your heart to my worldview, then you have completely misunderstood my worldview. Not gonna lie, I made this video when I was way more politically ignorant, is what he commented on the video he made about you. What's the guy's name? What is his name? Media sold us out. Man who ruined comedy. How Johnny Somali became the most hated. FD Signifier confronted me on stream. The worst political streamer 1 year ago. You're being radicalized. Is that what it is?
Hasan Piker.
Is this the one? Because, I mean, this video got 400,000 views a year ago. Intro, hypocrite, radical, being fair, realization. I do like that this is becoming common knowledge. It's scary how brainwashed his fans are. Imagine believing this guy bought a Porsche for your entertainment. I don't even know what this is. Imagine owning a $4 million house while streaming on the flag in the background. He's got like 3 or 4 videos about you. Yeah, I assume that like a lot of this came at the heat of the Israel-Palestine stuff. Criticizing public figures is fair, but coming at Hasan, this is from 3 hours ago, over Palestine is wild, especially now given everything we know. I get the criticism about his takes on class and race, like saying poor white people are still winning. But to me, poor is poor. Struggle doesn't care about skin color. Wait, what? That's not even my position. Hasan's not perfect, but he's trying to get people to think beyond what we've been told. Rich people have manipulated the narrative for years. He earned his money streaming nonstop. Nothing wrong with that. I'll keep watching. I came from Kyle's video. You should revisit his channel. He got worse now and even whitewashed the genocide in China. Bro, are you pro-capitalist? Hasan earned his money from his labor, not from capital exploitation. Edit. Wow, after the Israel takes, this video did not age well. Unsub. Best of luck, brother. Not gonna lie, I made this video when I was way more politically ignorant. That's good. A lot of these content creators, I think, like, make their first foray into politics by just basically getting involved in drama. Politically ignorant, commenting on a political commentator. Brother, there are a million of these guys. Okay? Most of the guys that do this are like this. At least this guy admits that he was wrong, I guess. Okay? I'd rather have all of these fucking slop tubers, even if they never admit that they were wrong, even if they never admit that they were wrong about me, but they just like move in my direction, worldview wise, and then stop fucking doing all of these like fuck Hasan style content.